What's the difference between a sacramental marriage and a natural marriage? And why does the church call some marriages valid and others invalid? Here's the Catholic teaching. Well, at the wedding at Cana, Jesus didn't just turn water into wine, he transformed marriage into a sacrament, meaning when two baptized Christians marry, they're not just promising their lives to each other, they're receiving supernatural grace from God. As the Catechism beautifully says, through matrimony, Christ dwells within them, giving them strength to carry their crosses, forgive, rise again after falls, and love one another with supernatural, tender, and fruitful love. So what makes a natural marriage then? These marriages are still recognized by the church as established by God from the beginning. And while these marriages between non-baptized people are still oriented toward the good of spouses and the raising of children, and they still receive God's help through what we call actual grace, they don't share the same enduring sacramental grace as Christian marriages. And what does the church mean by validity? For a marriage to be considered valid, that is real, binding, and lifelong, both the man and the woman must freely consent, intend lifelong fidelity to each other, and openness to children. And typically they have to follow canonical form in their wedding, which means marrying before a priest or deacon in a church with two witnesses. Now, the local bishop can allow certain exceptions, but that's based on specific circumstances. So let's look at some practical scenarios. If a Catholic marries another Catholic, that's considered both valid and sacramental if canonical form is followed. But if it's not, like a beach or registry wedding, if done without the bishop's permission, it's invalid because Catholics are bound by canon law. However, this can be later corrected by something called a convalidation or a ratiocination. And if a Catholic marries a baptized non-Catholic, a Christian, it's called a mixed marriage, and it's both valid and sacramental if it has the bishop's permission and correct canonical form. Without the bishop's permission, but with correct canonical form, it's still valid and sacramental, but illicit. That means it is against the church's law. Now, this one's interesting. If two non-Catholic Christians get married, it's automatically both valid and sacramental because baptism itself is the essential part, and as non-Catholics, they're not bound by canon law. And if a Catholic marries an unbaptized person, like an atheist or some other religion, that's called disparity of cult. This is invalid unless a bishop grants dispensation. Now, with such a dispensation, it's a valid marriage, but it's natural, not sacramental, since one of the spouses is not a Christian. And finally, if two unbaptized people get married, it's a valid and natural marriage, recognized by the church as binding and real. But if both parties happen to later receive baptism, their marriage automatically becomes sacramental from that moment onwards. And when it comes to the situation of divorce, remarriage, and annulments, I'll put more info on that in the caption below. And why does all of this matter? Because for Catholics, marriage is more than just a personal commitment. It's a vocation toward holiness. And taking validity and sacramentality seriously guarantees access to the grace that Jesus promises to live out this sacred covenant. I hope this has been helpful. God bless you and keep the faith.